Hello everyone and welcome to the live stream of the full story of the Revolts Two Brothers. And we are doing the full story this time. And as a reminder, if we need to stop during the countdown, we have possible we might have to stop the countdown due to maybe problems. If it takes a little while, we are still have stop the countdown until we are again go full screen. If it takes too long, we have then to scrub it, to put scrub. But all systems are go, and we continue with the countdown until T minus 0 minutes. Until then, enjoy some space tunes. And as a reminder, today I'm not alone. Today with me I have Super Rocky movie with me, and they help me with the stream. It's gonna check every time on the systems if all stuff still go, and if there's something wrong, I'm going to hold the countdown, and we are going to check what the problem is. If we find out as fast as possible, we will resume the countdown. But until then, until T minus 0 minutes, enjoy some space tunes. minus 20 seconds. 15 seconds. T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's start the stream.
Chapter 1. It was early in the morning in Adventure Bay. Chase was barely waking up. As usual, he was the first one to be awake. Chase stretched and looked around his room. His police hat was hanging on the wall next to a photo of him, Marshall, and Ryder. Ryder was laid on the ground, smiling at the camera. Marshall and Chase sat on either side of the boy. Chase smiled at the photo. The picture was taken soon after the Paw Patrol was founded. Chase remembered the beginning of that adventure. He still regretted and felt guilty about some things he did. Chase grabbed his hat and his uniform. After putting them on, Chase walked out of his pup house and looked around. The sun peeked out from the horizon as if it was not sure if it was time to come out or not. The sky in front of Chase was reddish-orange, while the sky behind him was a dark shade of blue. A light wind blew, rustling the leaves on trees and bushes. Chase inhaled as the smell of wet dew filled his nostrils. It had been raining throughout the night, but the smell of rain still filled the air. The sound of waves crashing on the beach and the singing of birds made Chase smile. He loved living in Adventure Bay. Chase walked around the lookout, waking up the other pups. The first one he woke up was Sky, followed by Rocky, Rubble, Zuma, and lastly, Marshall. "Hey, Marshall," Chase said softly. "Time to get up." Marshall groaned. "5 more minutes," he said sleepily. Chase laughed. "Okay, but you might miss breakfast." Marshall's ear perked up. "Breakfast?" Instantly, Marshall got up, stretched, and walked out of his pup house. "You know what? I'm awake." They both laughed. "I thought that would wake you up," Chase said. "Come on." Chase and Marshall walked towards the lookout doors, where everyone else waited. They were about to go inside when they heard a distant rumbling noise. The team turned their heads in time to see a female dachshund drive up on a vehicle. 7. Liberty! They all exclaimed. "Hey, guys," Liberty said as she hopped off her vehicle. She hugged Sky and high-fived, or high-pawed, I guess, the others. "What's up?" "We're about to go eat breakfast," Chase replied. "Do you want to join us?" Yeah," Liberty said. "I'm starving." She took off her helmet and walked inside with the others. They turned right to meet Ryder. "Good morning, pups," he said. He noticed the dachshund. "And good morning to you too, Liberty." "Hey, Ryder," Liberty said. Ryder served them their breakfast and then sat down to eat his cereal. "Hey, Liberty," Sky said as they ate. "What are you doing here?" "Ryder invited me," she said. "What for?" Rubble asked. "The Paw Patrol anniversary," Ryder replied. "Today marks another year since the Paw Patrol was created." "Really?" Rocky and Zuma asked at the same time. "I forgot about that," Chase exclaimed. "Yeah, me too," Marshall agreed. Mayor Goodway agreed to hold a party in honor of the Paw Patrol. Everest, Jake, Carlos, Tracker, the twins, and others will be there too. "So, when does it start?" Sky asked. Ryder checked his watch. "Tomorrow at 7 in the morning." "Awesome," Rubble said, and he continued eating. Once they finished eating, Chase got up and began heading out. "Where are you going, Chase?" Liberty asked. I'm going on a patrol, Chase said. Can I come with you? Marshall asked. Sure, Chase replied. Hey, Chase, Ryder said. If you don't mind, I ordered more pup treats for the dispenser. They were delivered to Mr. Porter's cafe. Can you bring them on your way back, please? Marshall licked his lips. He said in a hypnotic tone. Pup treats. If Marshall doesn't eat them on the way back, Chase teased, making the others laugh. He punched Marshall softly on the arm. Come on. We'll be back. After they left, Ryder got up to finish some work, leaving the pups by themselves. They decided to play outside for a while. They played tag until Chase and Marshall got back. They played hide and seek for 3 hours until Chase and Marshall were called on a mission to save Callie from the top of Katie's clinic. After an hour, Chase, Marshall, and Ryder arrived back at the lookout. The pups were in the living room, beginning the Apollo the Super Pup movie, so they decided to join them. When the movie ended, Liberty looked around. She noticed that Chase, Marshall, and Ryder weren't there anymore. Hey, guys, she said. Where's Ryder and Chase and Marshall? Oh, they left halfway through the movie, Rocky replied. For what? Sky asked. Something about the party, Rocky explained. Ryder said they just had to check a few things out. Okay, Liberty said. So, they do a lot of things together. Pretty much, Sky said. Chase and Marshall were the first members of the team. They plan everything with Ryder. And Chase and Marshall are like brothers. Huh, Liberty said. I was never told what happened in the beginning, you know? How the team was formed. Well, Ryder found Chase in Adventure City, and... I know that part, but what happened before that? The pups looked at each other. We weren't told either, dude, Zuma said. Now that you mention, we don't know what happened before Sky joined. Would you like to know? Someone said from behind them, making them jump. The pups all turned around to see Ryder, Chase, and Marshall walking into the living room. Would you like to know what happened? Ryder asked again. The pups looked at each other and slowly nodded. Ryder sat down on the couch, with Chase and Marshall on either side. Okay. Wait, you'll tell us? Rocky asked. Chase shrugged. In the spirit of the anniversary, sure, he said. The other pups moved in closer to hear the story. Okay, so you know how Sky said that Marshall and I are like brothers? The others nodded. Well, that wasn't always the case. But to understand why you need to know what happened before that. So when Ryder found you on the street? Rubble asked. No, Rubble, Chase said. Before that. Long before that. Chapter 2. Many years earlier Chase, younger Chase, was just waking up. He looked around and noticed that he was on a dark brown seat cushion. Chase loved being inside the car. The back seat was of his previous owner's red truck. He sat up straight and looked forward to his owner, who was driving. He wore a white tee, a black baseball hat, and glasses. He kept his eyes on the road in front. In the passenger's seat was a woman Chase had only seen a few times. Her black curly hair was pulled back into a bun, revealing her dark-toned skin. She was looking out the side window at the passing citizens. Chase looked out the window. He recognized the area as Adventure City's center. Chase remembered driving through there when Chase and his owner went to the park. Now that he thought about it, he hadn't gone to the park in a long time. The last time he went was before that mysterious woman appeared. Are we going to the park? Chase asked his owner, wagging his tail. He looked at his owner, who kept his eyes forward. The truck stopped at a red light, and his owner took off his sunglasses. He wiped his eyes, looked at Chase, and put the glasses back on. Chase could sense that his owner was distressed. Chase compared the feeling to when he had to choose between eating or continuing playing. Chase had to leave one to do the other. Chase wasn't sure what that was about. But he figured everything would get better at the park. Chase got on his hind legs to look through the truck's rear window. He enjoyed watching the car behind him. He liked to imagine they were friends who wanted to go play at the park with him and his owner. Chase noticed a cop cruiser rush by with the sirens on. Most dogs would cover their ears to the sound, but not Chase. He thought the cop car was incredible. Chase wondered what it was like to go that fast down the busy streets. Chase's right ear perked up as he heard a clicking noise coming from the dashboard. His owner once told him that the noise came from signal lights going off. Chase didn't know what that meant, but he smiled whenever it came on. He felt the car come to a stop on the side of the road. "Are we at the park yet?" Chase asked hopefully. He jumped to the front of the truck and let himself get picked up by the woman. She opened the door and carried Chase outside. Chase's smile faded when he noticed the large buildings surrounding him. This isn't the park, he thought. The woman put him around, and Chase looked around. People crowded the sidewalk. Some glanced at him, but they kept walking. Chase heard the door close behind him. He turned around to see the car begin to drive off. They must have forgotten me, Chase thought. He ran after the truck, but he was not fast enough. The vehicle turned the corner, which was the last time he would ever see the car. Chase was breathing hard. He didn't know what to do. He looked up at the skyscrapers on the other side of the street. The buildings loomed over Chase. Chase realized how much bigger the world was. He was small compared to his surroundings. He was defenseless and weak against the troubles of the real world. Chase ran through the city streets. The sun began to set behind the buildings, so Chase knew he would have to find shelter. Chase tried to smell his way back to his owner, but his nose was useless against the different scents in the city. Chase walked into an alley between two buildings. He found a cardboard box flipped on its side with an old shirt inside, so he entered the box and lay down. He tried to sleep, but he couldn't. Chase's eyes stayed open all night. He watched everything that happened during the night. A cop car passed by with the siren blazing. A group of dogs ran from a woman carrying a leash for each one. He watched as families walked by. For 2 weeks, Chase was forced to scavenge for food and shelter. During the night, he rested in the cardboard box. During the day, Chase walked around the city looking for his old home. He didn't want to believe that his owner would abandon him just like that. Chase began walking back to the cardboard box one evening as the sun fell behind the buildings. He tried to think of why his owner abandoned him. Maybe I don't deserve a home, he told himself. I must have done something wrong. Chase turned the corner into the alley and stopped. 3 grown dogs tore through the trash cans. One of them noticed Chase and turned to look at him. He was tall and skinny. His fur was black except on his belly and snout. Chase guessed that he was a Doberman. "What are you looking at?" the Doberman growled. His voice was sharp and jagged, like a knife run against concrete. That got the attention of the other 2 dogs. They looked up and Chase. One was tall and gray with bloodshot eyes. His legs were longer than his body. Chase guessed he was a greyhound. The only dog was shorter with shaggy white and brown fur. A tooth stuck out the side of his mouth, so his lower jaw was more to the left than his snout. Chase didn't know what kind of dog he was. Nothing, Chase stuttered. I just want to go to sleep. The Doberman looked at the cardboard box with a used shirt. He smiled at Chase. I'm sorry, go ahead. Chase got them feeling that the apology wasn't sincere, but he cautiously moved toward the box. When he got a foot away, the Doberman launched towards Chase. Chase, luckily, moved out of the way just in time. The Doberman crushed the box and stood up. I got a better idea, the Doberman said. We teach you a little lesson. It's every dog for himself. The three dogs simultaneously ran towards Chase. Chase ran down the street and turned the corner. The other dogs were faster, but thanks to passing pedestrians, Chase was able to stay ahead of them. Chase kept running for 10 minutes before he turned around. He didn't see the dogs, but that didn't make him feel any better. Chase had nowhere to rest for the night, and from the smell of moisture in the air, it will rain soon. Chase was paying attention, and someone accidentally stepped on his tail. He yelped and looked around. All around him, people walked around, paying no attention to the young German Shepherd. To avoid getting stepped again, Chase moved with the crowd. He didn't know what to make of his situation. When the people departed, Chase realized he was on the street. Chase looked up to see a large white truck driving in his way. Chase closed his eyes, waiting for the impact that never came. After a count of 3, Chase opened his eyes to see a boy next to him. He had his hand in front of the van, telling the driver to stop. I'm Ryder, he said. You can trust me. Chase didn't know what to do. He didn't want to go with a stranger. The boy's smile was warm and sincere. Chase built up enough strength and walked toward the boy. He didn't know that the decision would change his life forever. Continue to next part. Add. Chapter 3. Ryder held Chase in his arms as he walked off the road. Chase looked at the boy. Ryder kept his eyes forward. Every once in a while, he would glance down at Chase. His brown eyes were the same color as his spiky hair. Ryder wore a light gray t-shirt and navy blue cargo pants. At first, Chase didn't know where Ryder was taking him. But when a familiar scent swept through Chase's nostril, he inhaled. Are we going to the park? He asked. Ryder smiled. Yeah, my parents are there, he said. Why are we going to your parents? Chase asked. Ryder looked down at Chase. Because I want to see if they will let me give you a home if you want one. You going to find me a home? Chase asked. But you just met me. Ryder shrugged. Everyone deserves a home. I guess that's true, he said. But who will want to adopt a stray? Someone who believes in second chances, Ryder said. Do you believe in second chances? Yeah, Chase said. Then there you go, Ryder said. He looked up. Oh, there they are. Chase faced the same direction as Ryder. He noticed 2 people standing together inside an open-aired bandstand. The man was tall and muscular. He wore a navy blue shirt and khaki shorts. His hair was the same color as Ryder's, but was cut short on the sides and longer on top. His neatly trimmed beard and mustache covered the lower half of his face. His eyes were amber, and his teeth were snow white. Next to the man was a woman shorter than him. She wore a white dress with lines running through it like vines growing on a brick wall. Her black hair was pulled back behind her, and the woman's eyes, unlike the man's eyes, were lightning blue. She smelled like baked apples and cinnamon. There you are, the man said to Ryder. I was starting to think that you went home without us. Ryder laughed. Sorry, Dad. I went to help this little guy here. He almost got hit by a truck. The man smiled. Ryder, you don't need to apologize for helping someone in need. And what's his name? The woman asked. Ryder thought about it. My name's Chase, Chase helped. Nice to meet you, Chase, the woman said. Mom, Dad, Ryder said. I wanted to ask you something. Can we adopt him? Ryder's mom and dad looked at each other. They didn't say anything, but they seemed to have a silent conversation. Ryder's dad turned and opened his mouth. No. What? Ryder's mom slapped his arm. Justin. Justin laughed as he rubbed his tricep. I'm kidding. Sure, Ryder, we can keep him. I mean, if he wants to. Chase looked at Ryder. You want to adopt me? Yeah, he said. You deserve a home. What do you say, sweetheart? Ryder's mom asked. Wanna be part of the family? Chase didn't know what to say. The last time he thought he had a family, his owner abandoned him. But something about Ryder's eyes told him that he wouldn't do that. Yes, Chase said. Justin smiled. That's great to hear. He looked up at the sky. Well, it's getting dark. Time to head home. You're going to love Adventure Bay, Ryder said as they walked. Chase looked at him. I thought we were in Adventure City. We are, Ryder's mom said. But we don't live here. We live in a small town called Adventure Bay, 2 hours drive from here. Then what are you doing here? Chase asked. I had to go to a meeting, Justin said. He looked forward and frowned. Do loud noises annoy you, Chase? No, why, he replied. Because that's my car over there, he said. Chase looked forward and almost jumped out of Ryder's arms. In front of him was a dark blue car that Chase had seen many times. You have a cop car? Justin laughed. I'm a retired cop. I came to give a brief to new officers. Cool, Chase said. Justin opened the back door, and Ryder climbed inside. Chase walked over to the window and looked outside. Chase watched as the buildings disappeared in the distance, leaving only the glow of city lights on the horizon. After that, everywhere Chase looked, there were trees 3 stories high. Chase has never seen such large trees in one place. The tallest trees he's ever seen were at the park, but they didn't reach more than 20 feet in height. The trees around Chase were twice as tall, maybe even more. There was no light pollution in that air, so Chase saw the stars clearly. In the city, he's never seen them so vividly. He would see 1 or 2 at a time, whereas here, he stared at thousands illuminating the sky. Chase couldn't fall asleep, despite it being around 10 at night. He was seeing everything out there for the first time. He watched as a herd of deer ran across a field of tall grass. Ryder, are you seeing this? Chase asked, but Ryder was sleeping against the other door. Justin laughed. Is this your first time here, Chase? Chase sat down. This is my first time anywhere. I have never left Adventure City. Huh, Justin said. He stayed quiet for a second. Chase, do you mind if I ask you something personal? No, Chase replied. Well, you don't seem to be the type of pup that would be wandering the city streets alone. I didn't always sleep on the streets, Chase said. You used to have an owner? Yeah, Chase said. But 2 weeks ago, he left me on the side of the road to fend for myself. I'm sorry to hear that, Justin said. I hate it when people do stuff like that. But you don't have to worry about that anymore. You're with Ryder now. You will always have a family with us. Chase looked at the sleeping boy. Thank you, he said. Chase realized that second chances were real, and this was his. He found someone who loved him. Chase didn't say it aloud, but Chase promised to never do anything that would cause Ryder to abandon him. He also swore to protect him no matter what. Chase would have to become stronger and better. Not for himself, but for Ryder. He will do it for him. Chapter 4. Chase watched as the lights of Adventure Bay appeared in front of him. The yellow street lights dimly lit the roads. A full moon left silver streaks on the still waters, glistening with a light sparkle. Mountains surrounded the sleeping town with snow at the top. Chase had never seen snow before, so he got excited by the scene. A dark building loomed on a small island across the bridge. Its paint was falling off, and the windows were so dirty that Chase couldn't see through them. Justin drove through the city and parked outside a white building. A white fence surrounded the two-story house. A large tree grew in the yard, displaying a shadow over the cop cruiser. Chase looked up at the tree and noticed a red fruit hanging off a branch. "Is that an apple tree?" he asked. Justin looked at it and smiled. "It is, Chase," he replied. "It's been here since before the house was." "Cool," he said. Chase looked at Ryder, who was just waking up. "Are we home yet?" Ryder asked as he stretched. "I think so," Chase said. Ryder chuckled half-consciously. He looked out the window. "Yeah, this is your new home, Chase," he confirmed. Justin opened the door, and Ryder and Chase hopped out. The air was a bit chilly and moist. Chase guessed it had just rained. Justin opened the door to the house, and they entered the house. The interior was light blue, with white trims running along the edges of the floor. Some black furniture fitted well with the dark gray flooring. A 50-inch flat-screen television stood on a drawer twice as tall as Chase. Chase walked into the kitchen and looked around. The light gray cabinets contrasted with the white countertops and fridge. A door led to the backyard, while 3 others on the left wall led to other rooms. "This is a beautiful house," Chase said. "Thank you, Chase," Ryder's mom said. "I designed this house myself." "Really?" "Oh, yes. I love designing things. It was fun for me." "So, Chase," Ryder said. "Do you want to sleep in my room?" "Sure," Chase said instantly. Ryder led Chase through the middle door into his room. Walking into the room, Chase didn't know what he should focus on first. The walls were a light blue, just like the rest of the house. Light gray wooden shelves hung on every wall. Some hold various car models, while others have Lego builds and creations. One figure looked like the tall tower Chase saw as they entered the town, but it was more colorful. Ryder noticed Chase looking around the room at the shelves. "What can I say?" he rhetorically asked as he hopped back onto the edge of the bed. "I like to build." Chase laughed. "Yeah, I can see that." He looked at the bed that Ryder was on. The blanket covering it was blue and white, while the pillows were red. Chase figured those were his favorite colors. Ryder took off his shoes and placed them near the door. He moved the blanket and laid down in the middle of the bed. He patted the spot to his left, implying that he wanted Chase to join him. Chase hopped onto and took a deep breath. It had been a long time since he slept on a comfortable bed. Chase spun in a circle once and laid down next to Ryder, who covered him with the blanket. Instantly, Chase felt secure and safe. He felt like nothing would happen to him, and he didn't have to struggle to survive anymore. But most importantly, Chase felt like he had a home. Soon after, Chase's eyelids got heavy as he drifted off into sleep. He woke up hours later as the sun shone through the window into his face. Chase woke up and looked to his right. To his shock, the bed was empty. Chase panicked. He thought that he was abandoned again. Chase jumped off the bed and ran out the door. To his relief, he found Ryder and his mom sitting around the table in the kitchen. "Chase," Ryder said when he noticed him. "Are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm fine," Chase lied, trying to control his breathing. He wasn't abandoned. "What are you doing?" "I'm eating breakfast," Ryder replied. 1. The front door opened, and Justin passed through with brown paper bags in his hands. "I'm home," he announced. Justin placed the bags on the table and began pulling out groceries. He grabbed a metal dog bowl and put it next to the back door, opened a bag of dog food, and filled the bowl with the brown food. Chase walked over to it and sniffed it. He thanked Justin and ate the food. Chase didn't realize how hungry he really was until he took his first bite. While Chase was on the streets, he couldn't get a lot of food, so he was always hungry. He downed the food quickly. Justin laughed. "You are a pretty hungry pup." Chase swallowed the food in his mouth. "Kind of," he replied. "Well, that's okay," Justin said. He poured some more food into the bowl. "You can eat as much as you'd like." Chase smiled and finished eating. After they all finished eating, Ryder and Justin walked outside, and Chase followed them. "Where are you going?" he asked. "We're going to that tower over there," Ryder said. He pointed at the building that Chase saw as he entered the town. Now that the sun was out, he noticed more details than before. Trees, bushes, and tall grass dominated the yard around it. The gray concrete wall was displayed since the paint was deteriorating. "Why are you going over there?" Chase asked. "We're going to remodel it," Justin explained. "Can I help?" Chase asked. "Sure, Chase," Ryder said. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a black collar. Ryder clipped it around Chase's neck. "Let's go, Chase," he said. "Our adventure awaits." Chapter 5. Justin, Ryder, and Chase walked outside and turned left. Justin opened the car door and sat down in the driver's seat, and Ryder sat down in the passenger's seat and buckled his seatbelt. Chase sat in the back seat. Unlike other cop cars, there was no barrier between the front and the back. Justin drove towards the building with the windows down. Chase stuck his head out the window and enjoyed the views. They passed through the neighborhood, and Chase watched as people began walking out of their houses. Kids ran around their yards, playing and having a good time. They passed the city hall, which was in a festive mood. A banner, "Congratulations Mayor," in gold letters wrapped over 2 columns near the front doors. Tables were set, and balloons hovered in the air. People walked around, putting things in chairs in their designated spots. "What's going on there?" Chase asked. Justin turned his head a little to see what Chase was referring to. "Oh, that," he said. "Our new mayor was elected 2 days ago." "Ryder, what was her name?" "Mayor Goodway, I believe," Ryder replied. He turned back to look at Chase. "I met here before. She's very nice." "Oh," Chase said. He stuck his head out the window. "Congratulations," he yelled. A dark-skinned woman in the middle of the party preparations looked at Chase and smiled. "Thank you," she yelled back as she waved. Justin, Ryder, and Justin arrived at the tower and parked in front of the doors. They got out of the car and overlooked the buildings. 1. As they walked closer to the doors, they slid open. "Whoa," Chase said. "Sliding doors?" Justin looked at him and smiled. "Yeah, he installed them last time we worked here," he explained. "We've been working on this for the past year." "All by yourself?" asked Chase. "Some of Dad's old friends helped from time to time," Ryder replied. "So what is there to be done?" Mostly the yard, painting the walls, and moving in furniture, Justin said. Oh, Chase said. So, what will this tower be once it's done? We don't know yet, Justin said. Maybe a communication tower, a radio station. It could be used as a lookout tower, for all we know. Ah, okay, Chase said. How can I help? I'm going to paint the walls while my dad does some garden work, Ryder replied. You can help me. Okay, Chase said. That reminds me, Justin said. He opened the trunk of his cop car and pulled a box out. He knelt next to Chase and wrapped it around his waist. What's this? Chase asked. He turned in circles, trying to look at it. It's a prototype police equipment, Justin said. It's supposed to respond to its user and bring out specific tools for specific jobs. I'm modified that one you're wearing, Ryder pointed out. It can hold a paintbrush and roller. 1. Cool, Chase said. Let's get to work. As Justin drove the riding lawnmower and cut the grass, Ryder and Chase painted the walls. They used an off-white colored paint. To Chase, it wasn't the best color for the wall. So, this is the color of the walls, he asked Ryder. From the top of a ladder, Ryder looked down and stared at the painted wall. No, this is just the primer coat. The primer what? Primer coat, Ryder repeated. It's used so that the paint, which will be green, gets displayed more evenly. Without it, some parts could be darker than others. After an hour, Justin walked into the tower. His gray shirt was splattered with green dots and stains. His forehead glistened with sweat, which he dried with a clean cloth. Justin looked around the room and the paint job. Nice job, he said. Thanks, Ryder and Chase said in unison. I'm doing the middle section, and Chase is doing the lower area. Really? Justin said, looking at Chase. You're doing that by yourself. Well, once you get used to it, it goes by quickly. Good job, he said. A horn blew outside, and Justin turned his head towards the entrance. Ah, that must be the guys that will construct the elevator. Elevator? Asked Chase. Yeah, it will go right here in the middle of the room, Justin replied. How many floors are there? Chase asked. 3 floors and a basement, Ryder said, and we have to paint them all. Then we should hurry up, Chase said. Justin scratched behind Chase's ear. That's the spirit. You know, you would be a great police pup. You think so? Of course, Chase, Justin replied. You're determined, hardworking, and always have a good attitude. Thanks, Justin, sir, Chase said. That would be cool, Ryder said. You and me, Chase. Law enforcement in Adventure Bay. Our very own patrol team. A Paw Patrol, Chase thought aloud. I like the sound of that. Continue to next part. Add. Chapter 6. Chase was helping Justin with some garden work around the tower. It's been 2 weeks since he arrived in Adventure Bay, and he was already loving it. The town was quieter than the big city. Adventure Bay was also much more spread out than the city, so Chase felt freer there. He enjoyed nights where the only light came from the moon and stars. In the past 2 weeks, he's gone with Ryder to the mountains and the beach. But Chase's favorite place was the tower. He felt a sort of connection to the building. It reminded him of the skyscrapers in Adventure City. It also reminded him that anything, or anyone, can be changed into something better, no matter the age or size. Chase wondered if the building meant something other than a side project. Chase! Ryder called out. Chase came back into reality and turned around to Ryder's voice. Ryder needs me, he told himself. He ran until he saw Ryder. I'm here, Ryder, sir, Chase said. You don't need to call me sir, you know? Ryder said. I know, Chase replied. My dad taught me to say that. Your dad? Ryder asked. Yeah, Chase said. Chase hadn't thought about his father in a while. He remembered them from when he was younger, but most of the memories were foggy. However, he did remember that his dad always taught him to respect others. Chase remembered that his dad used to call his owner sir out of respect. Did you need me, Ryder? Chase asked. Oh, right, Ryder exclaimed. He turned around and picked up a box from behind him. It was dark blue with black and gray outlines. What's that? Chase asked. Your very own pup pack, Ryder said. It doesn't have much, just a flashlight and a megaphone, but it's a start. Wow, Chase said. Thanks, Ryder, sir. He leaped onto his owner's lap and began licking his cheek. Ryder laughed. No problem, Chase. Ryder and Chase got up and walked outside. Justin was leaning next to the lawnmower, talking on his phone. He hung up the call and turned to Ryder and Chase. Hey, guys, Justin said. He noticed Chase's pup pack. What's that? I think Ryder called it a pup pack? Yeah, it's like the police prototype, Ryder explained to his dad. I only put a flashlight and megaphone it is, but it can be approved. 1. Nice, Justin said as he put his phone in his pocket. Listen, I gotta go. You know what? Do you guys want to tag along? Where to? Asked Ryder. Some hiker got lost on the mountain, and I'm going to help find him. I thought you were a retired cop, asked Chase. Just because you're not required to help doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't, Justin replied. Since there's no emergency team here, the mountain manager needs all the help he could get. Then let's go, Chase said excitedly. Justin, Chase, and Ryder hopped into the cop cruiser and drove down to the mountain. Since it was a retired cop cruiser, the vehicle didn't have a siren, but it still had its lights. Justin flicked them on and drove quickly. Chase couldn't hold in his excitement. He was finally going to help someone in need. Chase always dreamed of helping others, and now, he was doing it from a cop cruiser. He felt comfortable in the emergency vehicle, as if he belonged in one. Justin stopped the car in front of a wooden cabin and a guy came out. He wore a red shirt, khaki cargo shorts and brown boots. We're here to help, Justin said. What's your name? Jake, the man said. I was doing some paperwork since I just started this job a few months ago when I got a call from one of my helpers. He said he was hiking down a trail when he stumbled into a cave where he got lost. 1. Okay, don't worry, Justin said. I will head down to the base of the mountain. I saw a couple of caves on the drive up. I will check those out. Ryder and Chase, you two stay here and help Jake here. Yes, sir, they said in unison. Justin got into his car and drove down the mountain. Jake, Ryder, and Chase entered the cabin and closed the door behind them. In the center of the living room was a large table with a map spread out over it. After a closer inspection, Ryder realized it was a bird's-eye view of the mountain. Lines that represented the routes and trails snaked through the map like a large spider web. So, we should mark which trails and routes he could have taken, Ryder said as he picked up a red marker from the table. You don't mind if I... Jake looked up at Ryder. Oh, yeah, dude. Go for it. You can start crossing off trails on this route right here. Jake pointed at one trail behind the cabin. Why's that? Chase asked. Because of his size at the time, he had to put his front paws on the table to be able to look at the map. We were going to walk that route together, Jake explained. He wouldn't have gone without me. It's sort of a loyalty thing. Loyalty, Chase repeated. Okay, then, Ryder said. He put a red X on the trail. If he wouldn't go there, I guess he wouldn't go on these two routes on either side, since they all pin together at one point. That makes sense, Jake said. Oh, and all of these routes on the right side, we can cross out. Those are too long for a simple hike. Too many twists and turns. Ryder crossed those routes out and examined the map. So, that leaves us with. I'm sorry, Chase said. Something caught his attention and he had to figure what it was. He sniffed the air. Something gave off a strong smell. Chase lowered his nose to the ground and followed the scent around the room until he found himself facing the couch. He noticed something under there, and he was certain that it was the source of the smell. Chase reached his paw under the couch and pulled it out. What's this? He asked Jake. Jake looked over at Chase. Hey, that's my packet of unopened beef jerky. It has a strong smell, Chase said. Suddenly, he got an idea, and judging from the look on Ryder's face, he shared the same idea. Jake looked back and forth between them. What? He asked. Chase grinned. I got an idea. Continue to next part. Add. Chapter 7. Hayes turned to Jake. Do you have anything that belonged to the missing person? Something that still has his scent? Yeah, Jake replied. He jumped over the couch and grabbed a blue sweater from the TV stand. This is his sweater. He passed it to Ryder, who held it close to Chase's nose. Chase sniffed the sweater. Smells like coffee, he thought aloud. A lot. He drinks a lot of it, Jake said. It also smells like freshly cut grass and sniff some fruit I've never smelled before. It's sweet but not too sweet. Must be bayberries, Jake said. They're native here. They're delicious. I'll give you a map of where you can find them. Maybe later, Ryder said. He turned to Chase. Can you track him? Ryder, I'm a German Shepherd, Chase said. I can track down anything. Ryder liked Chase's confidence. He thought Chase could make a great leader. Chase lowered his snout and began sniffing the floor. He walked in circles inside the cabin until he found the smell again. It was fresher than the one that came from the sweater, but only slightly. We better hurry, Chase said. The scent's disappearing. Chase followed the scent outside. Ryder and Jake followed him from behind. Chase followed the scent down a trail until it split into two separate paths. He went down this way, he exclaimed. He sniffed the ground and shook his head. No, he went this way. Never mind, Arg, I can't figure out which one it is. The scent goes both ways. Chase felt bad. Because of him, someone would stay missing. He failed to do the one thing he should be able to do. Ryder knelt down next to Chase and rubbed his back. Hey, it's okay, Chase. I'm sorry, Ryder, sir, Chase said. I failed. I can't do it. Relax, Ryder said calmly. You can do it. Just concentrate. Chase closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He tried sniffing the air again. This time, he focused on the small details. To the trail on the left, the caffeine scent was stronger than the one on the right. This way, he said. As they kept walking, the smell got stronger. Chase was sure they were going the right way. After 10 minutes, Jake pointed something out. Hey, look, he said. Chase and Ryder turned their heads in the direction that Jake was pointing. They walked over to a boulder on the side of the trail. A coffee travel mug stood on top of it. That's his travel mug, Jake pointed out. He uses it for coffee. Chase sniffed the lid, then moved his head away from it. Yeah, it's coffee all right. Ryder looked around the area. Wasn't he inside a cave? Yeah, Jake replied. That's what he told me. Then where's the cave? Jake and Chase looked around, and they couldn't see it either. Chase sniffed the air and found the scent. This way, he said. Together, the three of them walked in the direction that Chase went. After a couple 100 feet, Chase stopped. What's wrong, Chase? Ryder asked. The scent comes from somewhere around here, he replied. Chase looked around and noticed some footprints on the mud. Look, footprints. Chase followed the prints around the trees towards the side of a cliff. A large cave entrance covered the center of the rock. Bushes covered the ground in front of the cave, but the leaves were pushed out of the way. He must be inside, Chase decided. Nice work, Chase, Ryder said, scratching behind Chase's ear. You're a good pup. Thanks, Ryder, sir, Chase replied, pleased with himself. Even though he made a mistake earlier, he got back up and finished his first mission. Let's go find our missing person, Ryder said. Jake, Chase, and Jake walked into the cave. It's dark in here, Jake announced. How will we even see him? I forgot my flashlight in my cabin. Ryder turned to the German Shepherd. Chase, you have a flashlight in your pup pack. Oh, right, Chase said. He did a full circle before he realized something. I don't know how to call it out. Here, Ryder said. One day, it will be voice command. But for now, it's manually used. Ryder propped open the side of the box, pulled out a flashlight, and turned on the light. After 30 minutes, they searched for the guy. While they searched, Ryder walked into a cobweb, Chase slipped into a puddle, and Jake crashed into the wall of the cave, twice. They were about to turn around when they heard a voice. Someone there? It's Jake, Jake replied to the voice. Where are you? I see the light, he said. Don't go to the light. Jake called out. Stay with us. A guy emerged from the darkness. His light gray shirt and military cargo pants were covered with dirt and sweat. His boots were so muddy, they looked like they were made out of mud. His hair was cut short on the side and long on the top, which was pulled back and covered with a black baseball cap. As he walked, he limped to his right a bit. The flashlight, Jake, he said. His voice was calm for someone who got lost in a cave. Oh, I knew that, Jake joked. The others laughed at the joke. Ryder, Chase, this is my cousin, Robbie Skays. 9. Nice to meet you, they said in unison. Nice to meet you, too, Robbie replied. Thanks for helping to find me. I lost my way about 2 hours ago. If it wasn't for the light, I probably would have gotten even more lost. Happy to help, Ryder said. Now, let's get out of here. We have to contact the others that we found you. The others agreed and made their way out. Chapter 8. It's been a week since Chase and Ryder saved Robbie. People congratulated them as they walked down the street. The store owner, Mr. Porter, gifted them with a freshly baked pie and a bag of dog treats for Chase. Even the mayor stopped by to speak to them. I wanted to thank you for your help, she told them. It's people and pups like you that inspire others to do the same. In a small town like Adventure Bay, that is very helpful. Any time, Mayor Goodway, Ryder replied. We're happy to help. If you ever need help, just call us. I will, the mayor said. She looked up at the building. Are you two working on this yourself? My dad's helping, but yeah. Amazing, the mayor exclaimed. If you ever need anything, you tell me. I can also fund this building as city construction. That way, you receive all the benefits the city gets. Thank you, Mayor Goodway, Justin said. We appreciate what you are doing. Same thing goes for you, the mayor replied. After the mayor left, Ryder and Chase went back to working on the tower with Justin. People are getting to know you, Justin said. It's crazy how far a good deed goes. It feels good, Ryder commented. Not the attention, I mean, but helping people. It does, Chase agreed. The three of them continued working until noon. The elevator was fully functional at that point, so they relaxed at the top floor. Justin and Ryder hung their legs off the edge of the balcony, since there weren't railings yet. They ate sandwiches that Ryder's mother made for them. Once we're done with this building, Justin said, it will one day be used to help a lot of people. I just know it. After noon, Chase was ready to continue working, but that was not the plan. My dad and I are going to pick up some supplies and groceries for my mom, Ryder said. Do you want to come with me, or wait here? Chase was about to agree to go when a heavy breeze hit him. He looked around the yard and noticed how messy it was. Leaves, branches, and other things littered the floor. Chase decided he would stay and clean up as a surprise for Justin and Ryder. No, thank you, Chase replied. I'll stay here and wait for you guys to return. Okay, if that's what you want, Justin said as he rubbed Chase's head. As soon as they left, Chase took a look around the field. How am I going to do this? He thought to himself. Chase noticed some sticks leaning against the wall. He walked over to them and examined them. There seemed to have been 2 sticks, both about 5 feet in length, but one was broken at a foot. On the end of both sticks, a sharp metal rod was attached to it. Chase remembered seeing Justin using one to collect leaves, so he decided to do the same. Chase grabbed the shaft with his mouth and began walking around. Whenever he was near a leaf, he would tilt his head just enough to poke through it and pick it up. He cleaned off the rod of leaves and put them in a nearby trash bin. After that, he ran around, grabbing sticks and other things, throwing them away as well. In little time, the yard was spotless. Chase sat down and exhaled. Nice work, Chase, he told himself. He was happy that he could do something for someone he cared for. He wanted them to be happy, because if they were happy, he was happy. But most of all, Chase was happy because no one could take their love for him away. He finally had a family. Chase watched as a bunny hopped across the yard. He figured that it would be fun to chase after it. He ran after the bunny over bushes and around trees for about an hour. Eventually, the rabbit jumped into its burrow and disappeared. Chase laid down on the ground next to the hole. That was fun, huh? He told the bunny who had its head sticking out of the burrow. Chase heard an engine to his right. He left his head to look at a cop car driving up to the tower. He looked to his left, but the bunny disappeared completely. Chase got up and walked over to the car. Justin got out of the car and walked around the back of the car to open the back door for Ryder. Did you finish your mission? Chase joked. Justin laughed. Yeah, but we also had to complete a side mission as well. Chaz tilted his head in confusion. What do you mean? He asked. Ryder got out of the car with a large box in his hands. Chase, he said in an excited tone. This is his sentence when the box shook out of his hands and onto the ground upside down. Chase sniffed the box cautiously, but he couldn't determine the smell, but it was familiar. Justin removed the box, and sitting down on the ground was a white pup and black spots like puffs of smoke. His large diamond blue eyes seemed to process everything at the same time. His childish smile was wide and full of excitement and cheerfulness. "Hi," the pup said. "I'm Marshall." Chapter 9. Hayes looked back and forth between Justin, Ryder, and the Dalmatian. "Wait, what?" "This is Marshall," Justin explained. "We're going to take care of him for a while." But for how long?" "Until we find him a home of his own," Ryder replied. "He didn't have one, like you." "This is going to be fun," Marshall expressed. Chase looked at the Dalmatian. Something about Marshall's smile made him uneasy. It wasn't threatening in any way, but it seemed restless. It reminded Chase of himself the first day he met Ryder. He didn't like that comparison. "Chase, could you give him a tour of the tower?" asked Ryder. Chase sighed. "Fine," he replied. "Let's go, Marshall." "Okay," Marshall said as he got up. Marshall followed Chase around the tower as he pointed out. "Over there is the entrance of the tower. Right there is the cliff overlooking the town, and over there is the bridge." "I like it," Marshall commented. "It's very." Marshall tripped on a rubber ball. It bounced up and hit the back of Chase's head. "Hey," Chase said. "Watch it." "Sorry," Marshall said as he got up. "I'm kinda clumsy." He didn't know why Chase was angry, but he kept that to himself. "Whatever," Chase said. "Let's go. Dinner's coming up soon." After the tour, Chase and Marshall met up with Ryder for lunch. "Where's Justin?" asked Chase. "Oh, my dad had something to do, but he'll be back later," Ryder explained as he grabbed the food. "How did the tour go?" "Okay, I guess," Chase replied. "Nothing too special." "Uh-huh," Ryder said. "And you, Marshall? What did you think?" "I like it here," he replied. "It feels cozy." "Well, I'd hope so. You'll be here for a while." "So, dinner," Chase interrupted. "Here you go," Ryder said. He set a large bowl of dog food in front of the pups. It was twice as big as Chase's normal bowl. "Why is it so big?" Chase asked. "Because it's for the both of you," Ryder replied without turning to face them. He was pulling his food out of the fridge, where his mom put it. Great, Chase and Marshall thought. Now I have to share food with him. They awkwardly took turns getting some food until there was no more in the bowl. After that, Justin arrived to pick them up. "Time to go home for the day," he said from the driver's seat of his retired cop car. "Where are we going?" asked Marshall. "We're going to my house," Ryder replied. "Oh, okay," Marshall said. Ryder opened the door and Marshall hopped in, followed by Chase. Ryder closed the door and got into the passenger seat. Justin drove away from the tower as the street lights turned on. Chase and Marshall stayed clear of each other. They sat on opposite sides and faced their windows. Chase didn't like that someone new appeared out of nowhere, and his owner cared for them. Last time that happened, Chase got abandoned on the streets of Adventure Bay. Could that be happening again, he thought? No, I won't let it happen. I won't be abandoned. Not again. As Marshall looked out the window, he thought about his past. If it wasn't for Ryder and his dad, Marshall would have been back at the shelter. When they agreed to take him, he couldn't be happier. But now, he isn't sure how he feels. At first, he was glad to hear that they had another pup, a German shepherd named Chase. He was the first German shepherd Marshall ever met. He was told that they grow to be bigger than Dalmatians. When Marshall first met Chase, he thought he finally found a friend, but Chase gave him a sour face. He seemed displeased when Marshall tripped. He didn't know if they would like each other. Marshall also didn't see Chase as the fun kind, which Marshall didn't like. He didn't want to go back to the shelter. Okay, Chase won't cause that, he thought. I won't let it happen. I won't go to the shelter. Not again. Hey, Chase said, which pulled Marshall back into reality. Huh, what? Marshall said. We're here, come on, Chase said as he got off. Marshall sighed and followed him. Justin opened the door and they entered the house. Nice house, Marshall said as he looked around. If you like the inside, you should check out the backyard, Ryder replied. Maybe tomorrow, Ryder's mom said. It's time to go to sleep. Marshall, this is my mom, Ryder explained. Nice to meet you, Marshall said. Pleasure's all mine, she said. She turned to her son. You have to go to sleep, young man. Yes, Mom, Ryder said. Come on, Chase. You too, Marshall. Ryder got into his pajamas and got ready to sleep. He tapped his right side, and Chase jumped onto the bed next to him. He spun in a circle and laid down. Marshall, want to sleep up here? Ryder asked. Sure, Marshall replied as he hopped on the bed. He spun in a circle and laid down. He and Chase locked eyes. They looked away from each other. Neither one knew what the other one was thinking, but they both knew the same thing. They weren't going to be alone because of the other. No matter what. After 10 minutes, their eyes got heavy and they fell asleep. Continue to next part.
Now we're gonna take a short break and we will be right back to hear the rest of the chapters of the Reveals of Brothers. And have a nice break, and I see you in a few moments again. Have a nice break.
Chapter 10. The next day, Chase and Marshall worked tirelessly to outdo one another. A strong wind blew leaves, twigs, and trash all over the yard of the tower overnight, so Ryder asked the pups if they could help clean it up. Ryder set 2 trash cans in front of the building for them. "I have other things to do, but I'll be back in a bit," Ryder told them. After he left, Chase and Marshall looked at each other and smiled awkwardly. They didn't know how to react to the idea of working together without Ryder. "So," Marshall said, "I guess we will clean up the yard." "That's what Ryder wants," Chase replied. "Okay, you fill one bin and I fill up the other." "Cool," Marshall said. "And don't worry. I'll help you once I finish mine." Chase looked at Marshall and raised his eyebrow. "You think you will finish before me?" he asked. "All right, I guess we'll see who finishes first." "I guess we will," Marshall said as they went their separate ways. Chase and Marshall ran around picking up leaves, twigs, and branches, and putting them in their bins. In a few hours, the entire yard was clear of any debris, but there was a problem. Chase and Marshall finished at the same time. "I won," Marshall exclaimed. "In your dreams, Marshall," Chase said. "I finished before you." "I finished first," Marshall said. "No, I did," Chase countered. "If this seems childish, don't forget that they are still young pups at the time." 1. They bickered for 10 minutes before Ryder arrived. "What's going on here?" he asked. "Chase and I were seeing who could fill their trash bin first, but he won't admit that I beat him," Marshall explained. "Because you didn't," Chase responded. "Okay," Ryder intercepted. "I get you had a competition, but there's no point in fighting about it. You guys are going to be around each other more often. I wanted you two to work together as a team, okay?" "Okay," Chase and Marshall said softly. "Good," Ryder said. "Here, take these." He tossed 2 boxes in front of them. They were light gray and black lines ran across the ridges. Marshall sniffed the box. "What is it?" "I call them pup packs," Ryder replied. "They hold tools for you to use." "What for?" "It will make it easier to help around the tower. Here, put them on." Ryder helped Chase and Marshall put the pup packs on their backs. It was well balanced and light, so it didn't cause them any trouble. "What do they do?" asked Marshall. Ryder pressed a button on the side of the box, and a wooden stake rolled out. "You can use this to help pick up leaves and trash." He clicked a button on the side of Chase's pup pack. Another stake appeared on his right. "Thanks," Chase and Marshall said in unison. "No problem," Ryder said. He left, leaving Chase and Marshall to go around a second time and make sure they didn't miss anything. Despite what Ryder said, Chase and Marshall kept competing in everything to see who was the better pup. When Ryder asked them to do something, they tried to be faster than the other one. In their free time, they had races, played tug-o-war, and other things to see who was better. As it turned out, although Marshall was faster and more flexible, Chase was stronger and more athletic. Every day, Chase and Marshall despised each other more and more. Chase didn't like how clumsy and silly was all the time, even in serious times. For Marshall, he despised how Chase acted bossy and serious most of the time. But sadly, Ryder was clueless to what was happening. One day, Justin called Ryder on Ryder's phone. "Ryder here," he said. "Hey, Ryder," Justin answered. "I just got a call that a local farmer got his pig pen's door broken off the hinges. I told him you could help him with that if you're willing since I'm busy." Sure," Ryder said. He's been working with his hands for a while now, building things from scratch. He recently built a trailer that he could pull with his dad's old ATV. It could pull Chase, Marshall, and a couple of tools without trying to pull apart. Justin himself was very impressed by the 10-year-old. Ryder's old school teachers said that he had an intelligence far more advanced than any of the other students, and it was growing. By the age of 10, he knew everything school had to offer. He graduated years early. Only other student that came close was a blonde girl by the name of Katie. However, they did take some classes here and there to learn more outside of school. That's something I believe that they do when they are not on screen. It would make sense why they know so much. Let me go grab Chase and Marshall, and I'll be on the way, Ryder said. Thanks, Ryder, Justin said. I sent the address to your phone. Ryder hung up and walked over to the pups. They were in the middle of tug-o-war. Chase yanked once more, making Marshall fall. I win, Chase said. Again. Marshall growled. Again, he said, grabbing the rope. I'll beat you this time. Maybe later, Ryder interrupted, making them both turn. We have a job to do. Author's note: Hey, guys, I just wanted to apologize for not uploading in 3 weeks. I have been extremely busy. Chapter 11. Ryder drove the ATV up the farmer's barn. He was pulling Chase and Marshall in the trailer behind him, along with a few tools. Since Ryder was told he would fix a fence gate, he brought the tools Ryder knew he would need. Ryder took a compact drill, a level, a tape measure, some bolts and nuts, and a hammer. He's fixed some fences in the past, so Ryder knew what to do. Marshall and Chase sat next to each other, but they faced separate ways. They were still mad about their contest. They thought Ryder would choose one or the other to stay with him, but not both. When Ryder arrived at the barn, the farmer walked up to him. You must be Ryder, he commented. Ryder took off his helmet. Yep, that's me, he replied. I was told that you have a gate that needs fixing. Right this way, the farmer said. Ryder, Chase, and Marshall followed the farmer to the pig pen. When they got there, Ryder saw the damage immediately. The hinges were hanging on by a single screw, but the gate was leaning against the fence. The pigs were nowhere to be seen. Where are all of the pigs? Chase asked. I put them inside the barn for now, the farmer replied. They shouldn't cause you any trouble while you work. Chase walked around the corner of the barn and looked at the farmer. That may be a problem, he commented. The farmer got confused by the young pup's statement, so he walked over to Chase. The barn door was swung open, and there was no sign of pigs anywhere. Oh, no, the farmer exclaimed, putting his hands on his head. I forgot to close the barn doors completely. Maybe we can help with that, too, Ryder said. Chase, do you track down the pigs with your nose? My nose? Chase asked. Yeah, German shepherds usually have a great sense of smell. That's why they make good police dogs. Chase thought about it. He always wanted to be a police dog. Yeah, I can try. Thanks, Chase, Ryder said. Marshall looked back and forth between Ryder and Chase. Hey, I can help too, he exclaimed. He wanted to prove that he was valuable. Okay, Ryder said. Go along with Chase and help him find the pigs. Okay, Marshall said. He looked at Chase and smiled. Chase responded with a soft growl under his throat. The farmer walked up to the German shepherd holding a small cloth. This belongs to the pigs, he explained. It still has their scent, so I figured you could use it. The German shepherd sniffed the blanket but immediately pulled back. That stinks, he said. If it's too much for your sensitive nose, I could give it a go, Marshall teased. I got this, Chase responded. He took another whiff at the cloth. It smells like banana and orange peels, dirt, and something else I don't know. Okay, so you know your way through trash, Marshall commented. Chase growled softly, but he ignored the Dalmatian. He sniffed the air for a minute before he stopped. I think I found it, he called out to Ryder. Great, Ryder said. Follow it, and let's hope it leads you to the pigs. Okay, Chase said. He bumped into Marshall as he walked by. Chase kept his head close to the ground because he realized the scent was more distinguishable the lower he was. Chase and Marshall walked around the farm, looking for the pigs. At one point, Marshall tripped on a fallen log, rolled into Chase, and they ran into a tree. After 10 minutes, Chase and Marshall were starting to get impatient. Are we getting closer, Chase? Marshall asked. Not since the last time you asked me 5 seconds ago, Chase said. He bumped into a tree and fell backward. Ack, he said, and he rubbed his head. Marshall laughed. Guess I'm not the only one who trips, huh, he said. Yeah. Well, you're the only one who trips every 10 minutes. I'm starting to think that you're doing it intentionally. Marshall's cheeks turned red with anger. Why would I be doing it on purpose? Chase got up and looked at him. You tell me. I have never met anyone who can be so clumsy. How do you plan to help like that? And I have never met anyone so bad at their one job. You couldn't find a few pigs. And yet you still call yourself a German Shepherd. At that point, Chase and Marshall were inches away from each other. They were about to keep talking when they noticed some movement in the corner of their eyes. Chase and Marshall turned and realized that it was a group of pigs. They were grazing the field, eating the fruits that fell from nearby trees. Chase sighed and walked over to the pigs. He and Marshall started them towards the barn, but they didn't talk to each other on the way back. They thought about what the other one said and whether or not it was true. They couldn't help but believe that it was partly correct. Ryder was leaning against the fence next to the fixed gate. The farmer was leaning on the gate, testing its durability, and ultimately impressed by the handiwork of the 10-year-old. You found them, Ryder said. Yeah, Chase and Marshall said in unison. How did it go? Ryder asked. It was okay, Chase said in a shallow tone. He and Marshall jumped into the trailer and sat down, facing in opposite directions from each other. Ryder frowned. Something's wrong, he thought. I have to figure out what. Continue to next part. Add. Vote. Good chapter uwu. 1 why ago. Reply. This is Chapter 12. Later that night, Chase and Marshall lay on either side of Ryder's bed. Neither of them could fall asleep. They were too busy thinking about what the other pup said. At last, Chase got up and decided to walk outside. Marshall noticed him walk out of the room, and it occurred to him to follow. Chase walked outside of the house and sat down next to the tree. He looked over the quiet street. He heard crickets from every direction. There were no light posts, so the road seemed dark and abandoned. All the houses had their lights turned off, so the only light came from the moon and stars above. The night was chilly, but not cold enough to head back inside. Chase sighed and closed his eyes. He couldn't help it. Chase thought back to his time alone on the streets of Adventure City. It was only for a few weeks, but for young Chase, that's all he knew. The time before that was blurry, like it was more of a dream than a memory. All Chase remembered was being a scared young pup alone in the big city. Now, he had a home that cared for others. Chase was able to belong to something greater than himself. He wanted it to last forever. But Chase felt something was in the way of that. Or rather, someone. "What are you doing out here?" Marshall asked from behind. Chase didn't turn around to face the Dalmatian. "Nothing," he replied. Marshall didn't like the tone that Chase had. "Well, obviously, you're doing something." "It's not your business, then," Chase said, turning his head slightly. "Go back." "You don't command me," Marshall said. "Just because you were here before me doesn't mean you have more power than me." "Just go," Chase said. "I don't want to hear you." Marshall got mad at the response. He didn't like people talking badly about him, so he walked over and gave Chase a shove from the back. Chase lost his balance and fell to the ground. "What's your problem, anyway?" Marshall called out. Chase got up and stared at Marshall with a snarl. "Right now, my problem is you," he replied while pushing Marshall back. "You're always in my way." Marshall ran forward and tackled Chase to the ground. Chase used the momentum to push Marshall over him and onto a flower bush nearby, which luckily did not have thorns. Marshall got up quickly and ran towards Chase. He jumped at Chase and pushed him into the tree, causing some apples to fall on the ground. Chase used his paw to smack Marshall off of him. While Marshall was down, Chase pinned him so he couldn't get up. "Give up," Chase growled. "No," Marshall yelled. Marshall freed his hind legs and pushed up on Chase's stomach, making him tip over. Chase quickly got up, angrier than before, and stared at Marshall. He was done with the Dalmatian. He ran towards Marshall, lowered his head, and plowed the white pup over. Marshall hit his head on the parked police car and yelped in pain. For a second, his vision was blurry, but it cleared quickly. He was going to get Chase when the light inside the house turned on, and the door swung open. "What's going on out here?" Justin called out. He was wearing a white tee and gray silk pajama pants. Justin looked around the yard, making Chase and Marshall look as well. Since it was dark out, they didn't see the damage earlier. A flower bush was flattened, chunks of grass were pulled out of the yard, apples scattered on the ground, a small dent appeared in the car, and the entire yard looked like a hurricane ran through it. What happened?" Justin asked, raising his voice. He looked down at the pups, who were now covered in dirt. Ryder appeared from behind his dad, trying not to get noticed. "You too," Justin called out to Chase and Marshall. "This is unacceptable. You both must learn how to behave if you want to be part of this family." "Sorry, sir," Chase spoke up softly. "I don't want to hear it," he said. "Get inside and go back to bed. We'll deal with this in the morning." You're lucky Ryder didn't wake up. Ryder, hearing this, rushed back to his room before his dad could see. Chase and Marshall crept slowly past Justin into the house. They didn't look at him, but they could feel the disappointment he had in them. Justin stayed at the door, looking outside. He sighed, closed the door, and went back to bed. Chase and Marshall couldn't help but feel ashamed. They both just wanted to feel accepted, but they accomplished the opposite. They never felt so bad in their lives. They went to sleep wondering what Justin meant by deal with it in the morning. All they knew was that they wouldn't like it. Chapter 13. When Chase woke up, Ryder was no longer on his bed. Chase walked out of the room and looked around. There was no sign of the young boy or his dad. Ryder's mom was prepping their breakfast. "Good morning, Chase," she told him. She wore a white apron and had a rag around her hands as she dried off dishes. Good morning," Chase said. "Where are Ryder and his dad?" Ryder's mom frowned. They're outside, she replied. She didn't say it, but Chase got the message. They were outside cleaning up their mess. Chase ate his food in silence. Once he finished, he started walking outside when Ryder's mom stopped him. Chase, wait, she said. I need to tell you something. Chase gulped. Oh, you're not in trouble, Ryder's mom stated. At least, not with me. I just wanted to tell you something. It may seem hard, but try to get along with Marshall. You both have a lot in common, but you also have things that Marshall doesn't. He's much younger than you, Chase. He was born inside a dog shelter. That's all he knows. He hasn't been in the real world like you have, Chase. So there are still things that he needs to learn. He needs someone to be an older brother to him. You have to teach him how to be brave and strong, okay? For me? Chase thought about it. He figured that there were things that he didn't know about Marshall. And one thing Chase always wanted was a little brother. Sadly, he saw Marshall as a competition instead of a brother, and it may be too late to change that. Either way, he nodded his head. I will, Chase replied. Ryder's mom hugged Chase around the neck. Thank you, Chase, she said softly. She scratched behind his ear and got up. Now, go to the backyard. There's a small pool filled with water and soap. Go rinse yourself off, please. You smell bad. Chase laughed. Okay, he said. As Chase left the house, Marshall walked out of the room. Where is everybody? He asked, looking around. Ryder and his dad are out front, Ryder's mom replied. Oh, Marshall replied. He ate the food that Ryder's mom left out for him. After eating, he sat down, staring at his bowl and the other one. What's wrong? Ryder's mom asked him. What? Marshall replied, coming out of his thoughts. Oh, nothing. Ryder's mom knew better. She dried off her hands on her apron and knelt down in front of Marshall. I know something's wrong, Marshall. You can tell me. Marshall glanced around to make sure no one was watching. I don't know, honestly. I feel bad for what happened, but I don't know what to do. I want to become friends with Chase, but he doesn't seem to want to. And now, I feel like we won't ever be friends. I see, Ryder's mom said. Well, it's never too late to make friends, even with your enemies. Sometimes you need to find something you both have in common. But we don't have anything in common, Marshall said. Actually, you do. You both love to help others, and you both are loyal and strong pups. Maybe, Marshall said. But the similarities stop there. Well, being different is not always a bad thing. You can learn from each other. You can teach each other new things, Marshall. But only if you give him a chance. I tried, but he pushed me away. Then keep on trying. Chase has a tough time trusting others, so you need to help him with that. Help him understand that he's not alone anymore. He was alone for a long time before we met him, and now, he still thinks he is. You can help him see that that's not the case anymore. You can do that, right? Yeah, I guess, he replied. Marshall didn't say it, but he hoped what Ryder's mom said was true. Chase and Marshall didn't know that the other pup wanted them to be their first real friend. Someone they could trust in hard times. Good, Ryder's mom replied. She hugged Marshall and sent him out back to wash up. After Chase and Marshall washed up, they walked out front and noticed that Ryder and Justin were done fixing up the yard. All that remained was the dent in the cruiser. Ryder and Justin looked at them as they walked out of the house. Before either one of them could say anything, Chase stepped forward. Justin, sir, I want to speak for the both of us and say that we're sorry. He looked back at Ryder's mom, who nodded approvingly. Well, apology accepted, Justin said. He wiped his hands on his shirt, which was now brown and green. But there's still going to be consequences. Until I say so, neither of you will help with assignments. We can't have liabilities like that when we are helping someone. You two will stay here or at the tower while Ryder and I go on assignments. Do I make myself clear? Chase and Marshall didn't like the consequence that they were given. They enjoyed helping out Ryder, Justin, and the community. But they also understood where Justin was getting at. Yes, sir, they said in unison. Good, Justin said. He opened the back door of his car. Hop in, he said. We're going to the tower. Continue to next part. Add. Chapter 14. During the next few days, Justin had Chase and Marshall clean up and help around the tower. They painted walls, picked up trash, organized material, and took things to the tower's basement. Justin and Ryder had gone on 4 separate assignments in those days, leaving Chase and Marshall behind with nothing to do. Justin and Ryder had gone to scout a cage with Jake from the mountain. Chase tried to make conversation with Marshall, but he didn't see how Marshall would want to. Every time Chase would get close, Chase would remember their fight. Chase didn't want that to happen again, so he kept his distance. As he walked around the tower when he felt a swift breeze down his spine. He turned around and noticed an opening between the trees. He walked through the trees and gasped softly. Chase found himself on a cliff overlooking the cliff. From there, he saw the entire town with the mountains in the background. The waves crashed below, and a gust of wind blew softly around him. The smell of salt water mixed with the scent of the grass, making a pleasant aroma. Chase sat down and inhaled. The cool air calmed him down for some reason. He stayed there for the next 2 hours, enjoying the view and remembering his past. Marshall walked around constantly. He tried to find something to do, but he and Chase finished everything a while ago. Ryder's mom passed by to check on them to bring them food. She decided to stay inside the tower just in case something happened. Marshall thought about talking to Chase. He wanted to make friends with the German Shepherd, but it was difficult at the moment. Marshall's head still ticked from being pushed into the cop cruiser. Marshall realized that Chase was much stronger than he was. He didn't want to find Chase in a bad mood and have someone get hurt even worse. Despite that, he felt that the tension between the 2 pups had loosened up between the 2 pups. Marshall looked up and noticed Chase through the bushes. He crept over to see what the German Shepherd was doing. He moved close enough that he wouldn't get caught. Chase seemed at peace. The air bristled his hair, causing little waves in his fur. His ears moved slightly to the side, but it didn't bother Chase. Marshall backed up, trying not to disrupt his alone time. Marshall turned back and walked towards the tower. He decided to rest and take a nap for a while. Hopefully, it would be time to eat once he woke back up. However, that wouldn't come until much later. Marshall stopped at the door when he heard Ryder's mom talking inside. Marshall wondered who she was talking to, so he hid and listened. "Are you sure?" she asked. There was a pause before she kept talking. "It's breaking up, Justin. I can't hear you well." Marshall realized that Ryder's mom was talking through the phone with Justin. From the tone of her voice, she was agitated and uneasy. "Here, I'll put you on speaker. Maybe that'll help." "Can you hear me now?" Justin asked in a muffled voice. "A little bit better now," Ryder's mom said. "Tell me what happened again, please." "Ryder and I were scouting out this new cave with Jake when our line snapped." "What line?" The one that led back outside," Justin replied. "We tried finding it again, but we got more lost. We walked down different paths, looking for the line. We ended up walking out of the cave, but not the same place we entered. Jake hasn't seen this part of the mountainside before, so we can't find our way back. What should we do? Ryder's mom asked. It's going to get dark soon. I don't know yet, but don't come up here. It's too dangerous to come alone. I can grab people from town to help. You're going to have to wait till tomorrow. If it gets dark, I'd rather not have more people lost in the woods. But don't tell anyone until tomorrow. I don't want them panicking. Okay, but stay put, Ryder's mom said. Please take care of our boy. I will, he replied. We'll be fine, I promise. I love you. With that, Justin hung up. Ryder's mom sat down on the couch and planted her face in her hands. Marshall couldn't believe what he heard from the call. They were lost in the woods with no way to get back until tomorrow. He's never been to the mountain, but Marshall was told stories about the dark woods from older dogs at the pound. Marshall ran towards the cliff, and luckily, Chase was still there. He was looking out at the town, but he turned his head when Marshall came up. Chase noticed Marshall's anxious face and stood straight up. Something wrong? He asked. Yes, Marshall replied. Justin, Ryder, and Jake are lost in the mountains. What? Chase asked. What happened? Marshall retold what he heard from the call to Chase. They're in trouble. They won't get help until tomorrow. Chase looked at the mountain. The sun was still high in the sky, but it would set soon. We have to go find them, Marshall. Marshall looked at Chase. But Justin said. I know what he said. Chase called out. But they need help. We can track them down better than any human can. But we have to go, Chase said. Come if you want, but I'm going no matter what. They gave us a home. I can't stay here and do nothing. You're right, Marshall agreed. Together, Chase and Marshall ran down the bridge, ready to face whatever was in their way. Nothing was going to stop them from saving them. Continue to next part. Add. Chapter 15. Chase and Marshall ran through the bridge and up the main road. Since they were still young pups, it didn't take long before they had to stop to catch their breath. Plus, we need a faster way to get to the mountain, Marshall said between breaths. Yeah, Chase agreed. He looked around the area. He noticed a bald guy carrying crates of fruit and vegetables out of his truck and into a cafe. I have an idea, Chase said. Follow me. They ran over to the man. Oh, hey, pups, the man said. I know who you are. I'm Mr. Porter. Would you like a pup treat? Maybe later, Chase said, even though Marshall accepted the offer. Could you give us a ride up to Jake's mountain? Certainly, Mr. Porter replied. May I ask what's the occasion? Marshall remembered that Justin didn't want anyone to know. We need to help Jake pick some bayberries, he lied. Right, Chase? Yeah, Chase agreed. He didn't want to do it alone. That makes sense, Mr. Porter said. Hop in, pups. 10 minutes later, they arrived at Jake's cabin. Chase and Marshall hopped out of the van and walked to the driver's side. Thank you for the ride, Chase said. My pleasure, Mr. Porter replied. Hey, when you collect bayberries, could you take me some, please? I haven't had some in a while. Sure thing, Marshall replied. Have a good day, Mr. Porter. You too, the man said. He turned his van around and left the area, leaving Chase and Marshall alone. Once the vehicle was out of sight, they ran inside. As they expected, the cabin was empty. Let's look for some clues, Chase said. Anything of theirs that could tell us where they went. Marshall nodded and began to look around. At first, they didn't find anything that could help. Chase tried looking at the map, but it didn't do them much good. Then Marshall found something. Chase, over here. Chase walked over and looked at what Marshall found. That's a piece of a bag, Chase said as he sniffed it. A bag of beef jerky. Marshall looked around. Where's the rest of the bag? He asked. Chase remembered how Jake said he loved them. Chase sniffed the ground until he found the same scent and followed it outside. I got the scent, he told Marshall. Really? Marshall asked. I think so, Chase replied. But we better hurry. The scent will disappear soon. It's already fading. Then lead the way, Marshall said. Chase followed the scent down the side of the mountain with Marshall at his tail for the next hour. Ryder's mom tried contacting them, but they ignored her since she probably would have told them to return. The sun was starting to set behind them. Eventually, they made it to a cave entrance. The scent goes in there, Chase told Marshall. Chase called out his flashlight and walked in. He turned around and realized Marshall hadn't gone in yet. Marshall, you coming? Why? Yeah, Marshall said hesitantly. He walked up slowly next to Chase, and they both continued into the cave. Chase noticed a line against the side of the cave, which he figured was the one that Justin, Ryder, and Jake used. Chase and Marshall followed the rope down deeper into the cave. After a while, Marshall stopped. You know what, he told Chase. On second thought, why don't you find them and I wait outside? Marshall, they need us, Chase said. I know, but... Marshall didn't have to finish the sentence. Chase understood that the Dalmatian was afraid. He remembered Ryder's mom telling Chase about Marshall's past. He didn't have any experience in the real world like Chase did. Chase had gotten used to being in a cold, dark place. He faced his fear of the dark, and now it didn't bother him, but Marshall hadn't. He was used to being inside a heated area with some light. He wasn't used to the cold or the dark. Marshall still saw the darkness as something to be afraid of. There are still things he has to learn, Ryder's mom told Chase. He needs someone to be an older brother to him. Look, Marshall, there's nothing to be afraid of, Chase told him. I'm right here with you. Nothing's going to happen to you. I promise. 1. How can you be so sure? Marshall asked. Let's just say I know what it's like to feel scared, cold, and dark. Trust me, everything's going to be fine. Marshall sighed. Something about Chase telling him that nothing will go wrong made him believe it. Okay, Marshall said. He took a deep breath. I'm ready. Let's go. Marshall couldn't help but smile. He was glad to have Chase with him. Chase and Marshall kept on going until the line stopped. Chase looked around. Where do we go from here? He asked. He sniffed the air. The smell of the jerky is gone. I can't track it. What about the scent of Justin or Ryder? Chase sniffed around. No, I can't find it. Chase sighed. Some German shepherd I am. Can't even find my owners. He lowered his head to the ground and stayed silent. Marshall felt guilty for Chase saying this. He felt like it was partly his fault from earlier. Marshall also remembered what Ryder's mom said. Chase thinks he has to do everything alone. Marshall walked up to Chase. Hey, man, Marshall said. You're not alone. Let me help you. We can find them together. Chase looked up. How? The scent's gone. Marshall scoffed. Don't German shepherds have a good hearing as well? Yeah. And don't you have a good memory? Yeah. Well, Dalmatians have good hearing, too. Come on, let's find them. Chase got up and smiled. He was glad to have Marshall with him. Together, Chase and Marshall were able to walk through the right tunnel until... Wait, do you hear that? Chase asked. Hear what? Marshall replied. It went quiet enough that they could hear people talking. They immediately recognized the voices. It's them! Chase exclaimed. We found them. Continue to next part. Chapter 16. Ryder was sitting on a boulder while Justin and Jake talked. His legs ached from walking for a long time. Jake and Justin were leaning against the cave wall as they spoke. They were trying to figure out what to do until help could arrive in the morning. Ryder suggested they could walk through the woods, but Jake warned about bears and wolves, so the idea was turned down. Ryder looked out the entrance of the cave. Tall trees didn't let him see 100 feet ahead. Above their heads, the Milky Way galaxy shone all of its glory. The cool air made the situation seem calmer than it was. For a second, Ryder forgot that they were lost in the woods with finite food and water. Then he heard some shuffling from inside the cave. He instantly got up and turned around. Jake and Justin got up as well. What's wrong? They asked in unison. Something's in the cave, Ryder replied. The three men huddled up and faced the cave. Justin picked up a broken branch like a baseball bat, and Jake raised his fist. The shuffling continued. Ryder's heart began racing, beating faster against his ribs. He hoped it wasn't a bear, but he wasn't sure. The shuffle stopped, and two animals jumped over a boulder into view. All three of the men jumped before they realized who the creatures were. Wait, Ryder said, pushing through. It's Chase and Marshall. Ryder. Chase and Marshall said in unison. The pups ran up to the boy and tackled him to the ground, licking his face. Ryder laughed as their tongues tickled him. Jake and Justin laughed. Chase and Marshall eventually got off a Ryder and went to Jake and Justin. The pups were pet and scratched behind the ear. Nice job finding us, Jake said. By the way, how did you find us? Chase followed the scent of your beef jerky, Marshall replied. All the way from the cabin? Jake asked as he pulled the jerky packet out of his pocket. It still had a few pieces inside it, so Jake offered them to the pups. Chase and Marshall gladly accepted the jerky. Yeah, Chase said with his mouth full of jerky. It has a strong smell. He swallowed the jerky and licked his teeth. The taste is better than the smell, though. Everyone laughed at the joke. Well, then, Justin said. But now we gotta wait till morning for all of us to return. None of us know the way back. We do, Chase said. We could find the way back. Right, Marshall? Yeah, Marshall said. Justin and Ryder were shocked to see how well the pups treated each other. Well, then, Justin said. Lead the way, pups. Half an hour later, all five arrived back at the cabin. Thanks to Chase's sense of smell, they didn't walk near places where bears roamed. Thanks a lot, pups, Jake said. Do you guys want to stay here for the night? We would, Ryder replied, but my mom must be worried sick. Jake shrugged. Makes sense. Oh, wait. He ran into the cabin and reappeared outside with a basket full of blue fruits. These are the bayberries I told you about, Jake said. Take this as a thank you gift. Ryder grabbed the basket. Thanks, Jake, he said. Justin, Ryder, and the pups hopped into the cruiser, waved goodbye to Jake, and headed back down the mountain. I gotta say, Justin said. I'm proud of you guys. You were able to find us by yourself. And to think that last week, you both were at each other's throats. Now, you're what? Best friends or something? Chase and Marshall looked at each other and came to a silent agreement. They may have their differences, but that didn't matter. They were going to have each other's back forever. If one of them needed help, the other one would be there. They no longer felt the jealousy or anger they had a week prior. Justin was right. Chase and Marshall were enemies in the beginning, but all that changed. Now, the two pups were more than best friends. They were family. They went from rivals to brothers. 1. Yeah, Chase and Marshall said in unison. Well, that's great to hear, Justin said. You know, I think you two are ready to join us again on missions. What do you think, Ryder? Yeah, Ryder said. Totally. Chase and Marshall smiled since they returned to helping people after a long time. They were going to do it together, alongside Ryder and Justin. They were going to start a team. A Paw Patrol. Chapter 17. Ryder, Chase, and Marshall went on many missions during the following 2 months. With more people being recruited at Adventure City and nearby towns, Justin left town a lot, leaving the three with all the assignments. But they didn't mind. Ryder, Chase, and Marshall found it an opportunity to bond and learn. With some funding that the townspeople gave the group, Ryder bought a used ATV and modified it to his liking. Chase and Marshall helped him by bringing him tools and whatever he needed. If they didn't have missions or weren't helping Ryder with his ATV, Chase and Marshall were either playing together or finishing up the tower's exterior walls. Chase was given the police uniform, and Marshall got the firefighter uniform for their hard work. Ryder made some specialized pup packs for both of them. Chase's pup pack contained a grappling hook, megaphone, and ball launcher. It was just a prototype version. Marshall's pup pack transformed into water cannons. Using the grappling hook, Chase climbed down the side of the tower and painted the upper half. Marshall used his water cannon, which he replaced with paint, to finish up the bottom half. Chase and Marshall finished the outer walls in 2 days, and the tower was complete. When Justin returned from his latest trip, he passed by the tower and was in awe at how it looked. The three of you finished this in 2 days? He asked. Actually, it was just Chase and Marshall, Ryder replied. I was working on other projects. Justin looked down at Chase and Marshall. Really? He asked. Yes, sir, we did, Chase replied. Crazy what a bit of teamwork can do. Well, great job, Justin said. It looks amazing. Thanks, Chase and Marshall said in unison. So, Dad, Ryder interrupted. Didn't you have something to tell us? Oh, right, Justin said. I accepted a job in a small town no more than an hour from here. I'm going to pull out of retirement since I'm still in my late 30s and become the sheriff of the town. That's amazing, Ryder said. Sir, Chase said. What about this tower? I mean, we worked very hard on it. That you did, Justin agreed. That's why I asked the mayor to fund a new emergency services team to work from here. Who's going to be in it? Marshall asked. Well, you three are going to start it, Justin said. You will live and work from here. Ryder is going to be the leader. Chase and Marshall are going to be the first members. First? Chase and Marshall asked. Well, when the time comes, the team will need to expand for more challenging missions. But that will come when Ryder deems it necessary. What about you and my mom? Ryder asked. Won't you guys live with us? No, Ryder, Justin said. We're going to be moving to the small town I mentioned earlier. But we'll visit and call, checking up on you frequently. So we're going to live alone? Chase asked. For now, Justin replied. But something tells me that it may change in the future. But then again, it's your choice. You can either start an emergency service here or come with us. Ryder, Chase, and Marshall looked at each other. They knew that it would be tough to start a team alone. But it will be necessary. Every town should have an emergency service, and Adventure Bay needed one. There will be struggles, but at least they won't be alone. Together, no job will be too big, and no pup will be too small. We'll stay, they said in unison. Justin smiled. I was hoping you would say that. I'll go contact the mayor now. He pulled out his phone and called the mayor. Hello, Mayor Goodway? They agreed to stay and start the team. There was a pause, and then Justin looked at Ryder, Chase, and Marshall. What's the name of the team? Ryder, Chase, and Marshall looked at each other. They haven't thought about that yet. It had to be something easy to remember, yet it stood out. Something that used the fact that they were a group of pups and a boy that was ready to protect and serve Adventure Bay. What about Paw Patrol? Chase asked. That's a great idea, Chase, Ryder commented. Yeah, Marshall agreed. Justin smiled. Paw Patrol, it is, Justin said on the phone. Yes, Mayor, we will. Thank you. Bye. Justin hung up the phone with the mayor. Ryder, Marshall, and Chase helped load things into boxes for the rest of the week and the following week. They took some stuff from Ryder's old house to the tower, which they agreed to call the Lookout. They loaded the rest of the boxes and items into a moving truck. It was time for Ryder's parents to leave Adventure Bay. Good luck, Ryder, Ryder's mom said as she hugged him. Make sure to call every day. We will visit as much as we can. I will, Mom, Ryder replied. Justin walked up and hugged his son. Remember, people are going to look up to you, he said. You're going to have to make some difficult decisions. But I believe in you. We love you, Ryder. I love you, too, Dad, Ryder replied. Ryder's parents got into the cruiser and drove off, with the driver of the moving truck following them close behind. Ryder, Chase, and Marshall stood at the end of the bridge until they could no longer see the vehicles. The sun began to rise over the horizon. What now, Ryder? Chase asked. Ryder looked at him and Marshall. I'm not sure, Ryder said. But whatever we do, we're going to do it together. They began walking back to the lookout. You know, Ryder said. I have a surprise for you both. Really? Chase and Marshall asked at the same time. Yeah, Ryder replied. Come on. Ryder led them to the garage door and opened it up. Inside were two brand new vehicles. One of them was blue, and the other one was red. The blue car was shaped like a box, while the red one was more stretched out. They both came with sirens with stickers on them. The blue car had a sticker of a bone with the number 2 in the middle of it. The red one had the number 3 instead of 2. These are your new vehicles, Ryder explained. Chase, yours is the blue one, and Marshall, yours is the red one. I will teach you how to drive and use the different mechanisms. Chase and Marshall didn't know what to say. They hopped into the driver's seats and looked at all the buttons and controls. When did you make these? Marshall asked. I had a lot of free time, Ryder said. So, what do you say? Ready to make the world a better place. Chase looked at Marshall, who nodded, agreeing. Chase looked back at Ryder and said, Ready for action, Ryder, sir. End of story. Ryder looked over the pups. And that was the beginning of the Paw Patrol as we know it. Continue to next part. Chapter 18, Final. And that was the beginning of the Paw Patrol as we know it, Ryder said. The pups couldn't believe what they heard. They never would have guessed that so much happened when the team was made solely of Chase, Marshall, and Ryder. Wait a minute, Rocky exclaimed. So, Chase and Marshall used to hate each other? Yeah, Ryder replied. And you were jealous of each other? Rubble asked. Yup, Marshall answered. And you two fought each other? Zuma added. We'd rather not think about it, but we did, Chase replied. And that was before you even met Sky, right? Liberty asked. Chase saved her a month after that, Ryder explained. She was out in the woods being chased by a large dog when Chase stepped in. If it wasn't for him, Sky would have never joined us and become the fourth member of the Paw Patrol. And I will always be grateful for that, Sky added. She and Chase smiled at each other. They stared at each other for a quick second before looking away. Plus. So, Chase was always the second in command? Ever since the beginning? Liberty asked. Well, not exactly, Ryder said. But you said the number 2 was on Chase's cruiser from the beginning. That didn't mean much at the time, Chase explained. It just meant that Ryder was the first member, I was the second member, and Marshall was the third. It wasn't until Rocky and Zuma joined when I was appointed second in command. And it was Ryder's mom who made you two become friends, right? Liberty asked. Chase and Marshall looked at each other. I guess so, Marshall said. If it wasn't for her, we probably still would have been rivals instead of brothers. Ryder, do you still talk to your parents every day? Ryder shrugged. I kinda changed to once a week, but yeah. I still talk to them. Okay, Liberty said. But how? We would love to answer the rest of your questions, Ryder interrupted. Both he and Chase were wondering how she had so many questions. I'm the detective pup, Chase thought. And not even I have that many questions. It's getting dark out, Chase commented. Everyone looked outside and realized Chase was right. We're going to need our strengths tomorrow, so it's time to head to bed, he continued. Yeah, the mayor will probably have many things planned, Ryder said. Okay, the pups said. They told each other good night and left for their pup houses. Since Liberty slept in the Adventure City Tower, Ryder let her sleep in the guest bedroom for the night. Chase tried going to sleep, but something prevented him from doing so. He twisted and turned, but he couldn't keep his eyes closed. He eventually gave up and walked out of his pup house. Chase walked around the lookout and ended up on the cliff that overlooked the town. He sat there, watching as the waves hit the beach in the distance and at the sleeping town below. His eyes perked up when he heard rustling behind him. A certain Dalmatian walked through the bushes and sat down next to him. I thought you were going to be here, Marshall said. You've been coming here for as long as I can remember. Chase sighed. I know. It's so peaceful and calm here. It helps me clear my mind. It's my favorite spot in the entire town. I could tell, Marshall said. What are you thinking about? The past, Chase replied. Telling them the story reminded me of how much has changed. For one, I'm no longer alone. Chase, you were never alone, Marshall comforted. Ryder and Justin were always there for you. I was there too, eventually. I know that, Chase replied. But I'm talking about being alone in the streets. Being that scared, small puppy. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if Ryder never saved me. You don't have to worry about that, Chase, Marshall said. We're all here for you. I know, Chase said. Another thing I was thinking about was our fight. At the farm and at the house. My head hurt for days after that, Marshall said jokingly. Chase winced at the memory. Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for things I said and did, Marshall. It was not right of me to do that. I still regret it. Don't worry about it, Chase, Marshall said. It's in the past. Trust me, I regret things, too. But we have to move from that, okay? We'll do it together. Chase looked over at Marshall. Thanks, Marshall. I'm glad to be able to call you my brother. Me too, Chase, Marshall replied. They both sat silently for a while, staring out into the distance. Marshall decided to break the silence. What do you think your old owner with the red truck is doing? He asked. Chase kept his gaze forward. Most likely, after Adventure City, he's regretting abandoning me as a pup now that I'm a hero. Do you regret it? Not one bit, Marshall, Chase replied. Not one bit.
Here we are back. We are finally ended the full story of the Wills Those Two Brothers. If you enjoyed this story, give me a like button, subscribe to my channel, and subscribe to my other two channels, Secret Channel and the Let's Play channel. If you have any requests for stories or sources that you make, comment down below. And for me, Super Rocky movie, our job is done for today. If you want, but we are posting new updates, you can find a new story, so all you guys can find me a story. Hey. But anyways, thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.